Welcome back to the golden ages of Irish traditional music, a journey through the stories, people and sounds that shaped Ireland's musical heritage. So far, Dawn Mead has brought us to New York City, where Coleman Morrison and others helped define the music in the early 20th century. Peter Woods then took us to the London pubs that became the crucible of the modern pub session, and we'll be returning to both of them soon. Now the story moves to Dublin, the third great centre in the Tri-City axis of trad. Mick O'Connor is the perfect person to tell the Dublin story, a musician, collector and one of the great researchers of the tradition. He comes from one of the last generations of mid-20th century players who helped carry Irish traditional music from the rural to the modern context. That lived experience gives him a special authority. And in his recent book, In Safe Hands, An Illustrated History of Irish Traditional Music in Dublin, 1893 to 1970, he brings together decades of research to tell the story of the people, places and music that made Dublin such an important centre for the tradition.
And I don't want to cause you to blush on camera, but I would rate that alongside O'Neill's 1001 Tunes in its importance, because while O'Neill captured music that would have been lost to us, you've captured, not just in Dublin, but people who came to Dublin from all over Ireland, memories, photographs and acknowledgements that would have been lost to your grandchildren and my grandchildren who met up in Armagh that day. Yeah. They wouldn't, no way they would know this stuff except that you've done it. So you should be very, very proud.
Well, thank you, Tommy, because all that community is gone from there now. The music has disappeared from the area, but it's still alive, and some of the same families are still playing. It's like the Roastums and the Pots, and my own family. I have two pipers playing, which greatly pleased me. And I grew up in the Liberties of Dublin, the old part of the city, and there was a lot of the old pipers and fiddle players, Mrs. Kenny, that's mentioned in O'Neill's Mr. and Mrs. They lived in the area. It had nearly faded out, but there was people like Tommy Reck and the Potts were still in the area, and Leo Roaston was teaching the Pipers Club. So I was surrounded by it. I started playing in a pipe band, and Fintan Lawler pipe band, and they were great. And I was fortunate that the pipe major and the pipe sergeant were. They also played the uilleann pipes as well as the war pipes, and they also played the fiddle. So they were very accomplished. And I remember actually going up to Balmoral with the band. They were competing in the All Ireland in Balmoral. We were invited back to a hall to play music. And I saw this big structure as we went in, and it was the 29th Old Boys. It was an orange hall. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of the significance of this, but what I remember was that they were all on, the Northern Boys were very anxious to get the boys playing the fiddles. Like Tim Keogh was a great musician, and he played the uilleann pipes as well. He was taught by Willie Andrews. So there was I was very taken by that, and that all these things we shared. And
what year was that?
In the early 60s, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, how long had you been playing? What age did you start playing at?
I started playing the pipes, the war pipes we call them, and then I was saving up to go to Dunoon, and I had money saved, and in the meantime I started going around with Sean Keane and his brother James. So I fancied playing the flute, and I took the money that I had saved up to go to Dunoon in Scotland and bought a flute, and that was I never looked back, because I was going around with two young men who were younger than me, but they were child prodigies, and we were hoovering up the tunes, and they were remarkably talented, and so I was just there in the right time in the right place.
Who taught you? Did you take tuition from anybody or just pick it up?
No, well, in the pipe band, they were very strict about that type of thing. I started going down to the Church Street Club, and John Egan, the great Sligo flute player, I was very interested. I used to be sitting there, and then I bought his flute, and he helped me. But there was no formal teaching those days. In fact, it was at the same club they asked me would I teach the tin whistle to young sons of the members, like John Brennan's son and McKenna. And the Mulligans, they all turned out to be pipers, which greatly pleased me as well. So, but there was no one teaching. There was no one teaching the whistle. So I was doing that for a while, and but I used to sit down with this old man, John Egan. Well, he wasn't old. He appeared old at that stage, but he played the tunes for me slowly at the start of the night. I come down early, but that's the way it was taught. You just play with the older guys, and the next night you had a bit more. So that's the way it had come down through the tradition. So that was the way it was around the country, I suspect. Because people didn't read, there was no formal teaching, you know.
Were you involved in the formation of any of the clubs that preceded the Cultus, like the Pipers Club or the Fiddlers Club, or any of those?
Yeah, I was a member of the Pipers Club, and very proud of that, and great memories. And
what year was it formed?
Well, my book, you can say it goes back to 1900, and it was following on from the Gaelic revival, where there's an interest in all things Irish, and the Feis Ceoil and the Oireachtas and the GAA. They were all Dublin based as well, so that's where things happened organisationally wise. So and they brought up pipers for the early competitions, and they paid for them. The Pipers Club paid for them, and and when they brought these people up, people like Jimmy Ennis, that's Seamus's father, they would pick up tunes, and so they were meeting the cream of the country who come up, who competed, Dinny Delaney and a lot more I just can't rattle off the top of my head, but they had a party for them one night, and it's documented in O'Neill's that they were all there playing. So the repertoire was picked up. A lot of that type of thing was bringing them up for the Oireachtas was a great idea. The Gaelic League, they did a great thing. They had a preference for the uilleann pipes, and this started in England. There was a guy there who played the pipes, and an interesting guy. He had Irish that he learned in England, in Manchester. What's his name? Courtney. I think of it in a minute, but he brought him over for the Oireachtas in Dublin as well. So they featured the uilleann pipes because they correctly assumed it was the national instrument, and more claimed than the harp because it wasn't the same instrument. The harp had changed. So they promoted that, and that was a great thing because that ensured that there was some recognition of it, because after the famine, I think it would have died out completely. Mm-hmm. So that was the pipes, and in the club too. The pipes were in the Pipers Club. It was exclusively for pipes. And it was only in the 40s that he allowed an accordion player to play. So they were, well, I think they were trying to ensure that their efforts wouldn't be diluted by just keeping the focus on the pipes.
And Mick, then the formation of Cultus had a big impact on the music.
Yes, of course, and it was formed by members of the Pipers Club in Thomas Street. They were the main drivers of it, and their philosophy and all was enshrined in, like, the aim was to restore the pipes and the harp. But I think the harp was more a pious aspiration until recent years, and but they knew it was important because a lot of the harp music was there, and it was our indigenous music, and deserving of investigation and respect.
Mick O'Connor, ensuring that the circle will be unbroken. We'll be back to Mick soon for part 2 of the golden ages of Irish traditional music.